What's up, everybody? It's officially a major championship week, and the final men's major of the whole entire season is here. I've been looking forward to this one. I really need a couple guys to step it up and get through the cut and then make a run. The 2026 Open Championship is heading back to Royal Birkdale. A tough course, a tough place to play. This course looks brutal. I saw a couple pictures on the Instagram, on YouTube, and it looks crazy. I'm talking about firm fairways, unpredictable bounces, pot bunkers, thick rough, wild wind. It's like 25 miles per hour right now. And a golf ball that could roll another 80 yards just off the fairway, up to 100 yards after it hits the ground. It's rolling firm. This isn't going to be a normal PGA Tour birdie contest where guys are firing directly at every flag. Royal Birkdale is going to force these players to control their trajectory, choose the correct angles, and most importantly, avoid the one disaster hole that blows up the entire round. Today, I'm going to give you my top 5 picks to win the 2026 Open Championship. These are not necessarily the 5 smartest picks, or shortest names on the betting board. I just wanted a combination. It's just the people that I think are going to make it happen. The guys that I trust with, and I think that they're going to make a run. You might think I'm a fool. You might think I'm a genius. And we'll find out. My 5 are going to be Keegan Bradley, Jason Day, Xander Schauffele, Gotterup, and Bryson DeChambeau. Slaughter me or say I did a good job. I don't know. And yes, Bryson is on the list, even though he hasn't made a cut in a major at all. Everybody appears ready to give up on him, but I just won't. I just won't give up on my guy, and I think he's going to have a run. We're going to break down the case for every player, what worries me about them, and then at the end, I'll tell you who I believe is the safest selection and who I'm officially picking to win the Claret Jug. Let's get into it. Before we discuss the players, we have to understand the golf course. Royal Birkdale will play as a par 70 at approximately 7,223 yards. It has been affected by an extended stretch of hot, dry weather. The course is expected to play extremely firm and fast. That means the listed yardage above does not tell the entire story. A 7,223 yard course can play much shorter when drives are running forever, but that extra rollout creates another problem: keeping the ball in play in the fairway, okay? And that's difficult. These players will have to decide whether they want to challenge the course with driver or use irons and fairway woods to position the ball. The problem is that even a seemingly conservative tee shot can catch a firm slope, run directly into a bunker or the rough. So you think you hit a good shot, and then you end up in the rough. The forecast has also called for warm, mostly dry conditions, and winds potentially reaching approximately 17 to 22 miles per hour. If that wind arrives, controlling the ball, flight, and judging rollout will become just as important as raw power. Royal Birkdale has a new par 3, 15th hole, and several redesigned areas since Jordan Spieth won here in 2017. This is not exactly the same golf course. The players remember, and that's for sure. They did a lot. The grounds crew, the greenskeeper guys, did a lot of work here the past year. Few years, actually. The winner needs distance, but he also needs imagination. He needs to hit low shots, control spin, putt from the green, and accept that some good shots are going to run terribly and not get diverted, not lose his mindset. So my number 5 pick, Keegan Bradley. Keegan's probably the biggest long shot on my list. He just hasn't been consistent, but I believe it's a legitimate argument for him this week. First, he has quietly produced some encouraging golf recently. He finished tied for 32nd at the U.S. Open, tied for 14th at the Travelers Championship, and then tied for 26th at the John Deere Classic, where he closed with a final round of 64. Those are no results to make Keegan the obvious favorite, but they show that his game is completely lost. His game is not completely lost. He has recently been making cuts, playing 4 rounds, and producing some really low scores. Keegan is also a major champion who has played in these situations for more than a decade. This will not feel too big for him. When the weather gets ugly and half the field starts complaining about the bounces, experience becomes valuable. The argument for Keegan is that he remains strong enough ball striker to survive a demanding tee to green examination. He can hit penetrating iron shots, and he does not need to overpower the course completely. He also has made the cut last year at the Open Championship, finishing tied for 30th at the Royal Poacher. That result ended a difficult stretch in which he had missed 4 consecutive open cuts. So why isn't he highest? Why isn't he higher? The putting is always a concern with Keegan Bradley. Let's be honest. On firm Open Championship greens, you're going to face long distance putts from strange angles. You might also have to putt from 20 yards, 30 yards off the green. If Keegan loses confidence with the putter or starts missing short par putts, he can play himself out of contention very fast. His Open Championship record is also inconsistent. His best finish remains a tie for 15th in 2013, and he has not produced many serious Sunday runs at the particular major. I'm not presenting Keegan as the safest winner on the board. He's my veteran value selection. I would be interested in Keegan for a top 20 finish. I believe he has enough upside to hang around the leaderboard if he can get anything hot with a putter. He is number 5 because the pathway exists, but everything has to work correctly. My number 4 is going to be Jason Day. At number 4, this one is based much more on his Open Championship ability than his immediate form. Jason Day has not been playing his best golf recently. He missed a cut at the Memorial and the U.S. Open, finished tied for 65th at the PGA Championship, and tied for 55th at the Travelers. If we're selecting players entirely from the last month of results, Jason Day would not make this list. But links golf can sometimes wake up players whose recent PGA Tour results have been underwhelming. Day has finished tied for 4th at St. Andrews in 2015, tied for 2nd at Royal in Liverpool in 2023, and tied for 13th at Royal Troon in 2024. He also played Royal Birkdale in 2017 and finished tied for T27, including a third round 65. He knows how to play this style of golf. The biggest strength for Jason Day is his short game, where he is healthy and confident. He's one of the most creative players around the green in the entire field. That's extremely important this week. Players are going to miss greens. They're going to end up in bunkers, collection areas, and awkward lies. Day possesses the touch and imagination to manufacture pars where a more mechanical player is not going to get there. Might make double or might make bogey or double bogey. He's also an excellent lag putter. On large firm greens, avoiding 3 putts will be essential. The question is whether his iron play will give him enough legitimate birdie opportunities. You cannot scramble your way to an Open Championship victory for 72 holes. At some point, Day has to hit quality approaches, particularly when the wind is moving the ball sideways. He's also missed a cut at last year's Open after finishing the inside of the top 15 additions. His recent results suggested the floor is low. But Jason Day has been a dangerous player when expectations drop. He has major championship experience, a world-class short game, and enough history in the Open to prove that he understands links golf. I don't love Jason Day as a straight up. I like him as an experienced player who could outperform in his numbers. Contender for top 10 and create a serious problem if he enters Sunday with 3 or 4 shots off of the lead. Jason Day is my number 4 pick. My number 3 pick is going to be Xander Schauffele. Xander is a player on the list that I trust most in a major championship. Since 2017, he has become one of the most consistent major performers in golf. And he finally converted that consistency into victories at the 2024 PGA Championship and the 2024 Open Championship. That Open victory is the most important part of this case. Xander has already proven that he can win this championship. He understands the patience required, he can fight his irons, and he's usually one of the best players in the world at avoiding catastrophic rounds. His 2026 season has not produced a victory yet, but it still included 4 top 10 finishes. He finished tied for 3rd at the Players, 4th at the Valspar Championship, tied for 9th at the Masters, tied for 7th at the PGA Championship, and tied for 11th at the U.S. Open. That is an extremely respectable major championship record this year. I think it's pretty awesome. The concern is that his form has cooled since the U.S. Open. He finished 51st at the Travelers and then missed a cut at the Scottish Open after rounds of 69 and 74. However, we also just watched the world number 1 Scottie Scheffler miss that same Scottish Open cut. Everybody had a hard time. It was a rough time. One poor week should not erase everything we know about an elite player. Xander's game is built for major championships because there are very few weaknesses. He's long enough without needing to swing out of his shoes. His iron play is normally dependable. His short game travels, and he rarely appears emotionally overwhelmed by any difficult stretch of holes. At Royal Birkdale, I want players who will accept a 30-foot birdie putt rather than firing directly at a dangerous flag and short-siding themselves on a pop bunker. That's Xander. He also has experience competing under pressure in Ryder Cups, the Olympics, and a final round majors If this becomes a 5-player tournament Sunday afternoon, Xander's not going to be frightened by the pressure. Why is he only third? He's not currently playing as well as Chris Gotterup, and there's slightly less upside with him than Bryson. If Bryson suddenly discovers his best game, then it could be a different story. But Xander's easily the safest play in my 5 to make the cut and remain somewhere near the leaderboard, T5, T10 area. If you're building a fantasy lineup or selecting one of these players for a top 10 finish, Xander is probably going to be the smartest option. At number 2, we have the hottest player on my list right now, Chris Gotterup. Gotterup is not a sleeper anymore. He has won 3 times on the PGA Tour in 2026. He opened the year by winning the Sony Open, defeated Hideki Matsuyama in a playoff at the WM Phoenix Open, and then won the John Deere Classic after a firing final round of 62, and that round was electric. He followed at the John Deere victory with a tie for 11th at the Scottish Open, where he hit more than 76% of the greens and averaged over 324 yards off of the tee. That's an excellent combination coming into the Royal Birkdale. Power, content form, and immediate experience on the firm life link style golf. But the most important piece of evidence is what Gotterup did at the Open last year. After winning the Scottish Open to qualify for the championship, he went directly to Royal Portrush and finished third in his Open debut. He shot 65 in the second round and closed with a 67, finishing the championship 12 under par. That tells me that last year was not just a random hot week. Gotterup has a genuine comfort level with this style of golf. His power gives him options. He can hit over the hazards when conditions permit, but because Royal Birkdale is so firm, he does not necessarily have to use driver on every hole. He can hit a controlled club and still receive massive amounts of rollout. The biggest concern is driving accuracy. At the Scottish Open, he hit only 50% of his fairways. Royal Birkdale will punish balls that run into pop bunkers, dunes, or thick vegetation. You cannot simply overpower every bad angle. Gotterup will need to show discipline. There will be holes where drivers look at him tempting, but correct decision may be a long fairway run. Fairway wood. We also have to consider the pressure. It's one thing to arrive at an Open as a relatively unknown player with no expectations. It's another thing to arrive ranked among the leading contenders with 3 wins that season and everybody's expecting you to compete. Last year, he was a surprise. This year, players and fans know exactly who he is. But his recent performance suggests he's ready to take the next level. He's ready to become a golf superstar. And I think he's on the right track. He's currently 5th in the official world golf rankings, according to the PGA Tour profile, and he has already shown that he can win in multiple different ways. Gotterup is the best current form selection in my top 5. If you told me I had to select one player from this list to finish inside top 10, I might choose Chris Gotterup over everyone, including Xander Schauffele. He's my number 2 pick, and that could easily be the main. He could easily be the man holding the Claret Jug on Sunday. Everybody that watches this channel knows who my number 1 pick is going to be. My number 1 pick is going to be Bryson DeChambeau. Let me immediately acknowledge the obvious problem. Bryson has missed every cut this year at the majors, all 3. Okay? He shot 76 and 74 at the Masters, 76 and 71 at the PGA Championship, and 70 and 75 at the US Open. His approach play and putting were particularly damaging at Shinnecock Hills. Stop. And we have not seen the same major championship performance out of Bryson that nearly won 3 majors in 2024. So why in the world am I having him as my number 1 pick? Because Bryson is the ultimate high risk. High upside selection and public confidence in him has complete collapsed. Everybody's turning on Bryson. Everybody says he's not a good golfer. He even had to drop an explanation video because people were just trashing him because he wanted to do YouTube. I don't think that he's out of form. I think that it was just a tough year on the courses. In 2022, Bryson finished tied for 8th at St. Andrews last year. At Royal Portrush, he opened with a disastrous 78 and looked completely finished. He then responded with rounds of 65, 68, and 64 to climb all the way into a tie for 10th. Think about how difficult that is mentally. Most players shoot 78 on a Thursday at the Open, are mentally booking their flights. They're headed home, and they're already home in their minds. Bryson responded with 3 elite rounds, including one of the best final rounds of the championship. The case for Bryson begins with the fact that his length can create enormous advantages if he chooses to correct the moments to have it. If he chooses to correct moments to have it, on firm fairways, he could produce drives that run ridiculous distances. He may also be able to carry bunkers and hazards that force shorter players to lay back. However, he cannot approach Royal Birkdale like a long drive competition. This is where I need to see growth from Bryson. He has to accept that some holes require an iron off of the tee. He cannot try to dominate every obstacle with the speed and power. Nick Faldo and other analysts have Nick Faldo and other analysts have questioned whether Bryson's aggressive approach truly fits links golf. That criticism is fair, but also let the man play his game. But Bryson is also one of the few players capable of solving a golf course in a completely different way than anybody else. He studies launch conditions, he studies wind, he studies equipment. On a course producing unpredictable bounces, that mind can either become his greatest advantage or cause him to overthink everything. The other concern is his iron play. Power means nothing if he repeatedly misses greens from 150 yards out. Royal Birkdale will not allow him to rely entirely on driving and recovery shots. But I believe this is a perfect situation for a bounce back. He has been embarrassed in the first 3 majors. The odds and expectations have dropped. People are questioning whether he's more focused on YouTube than winning tournaments. A reporter just said, I don't know if he's trying to beat the best players in the world or if he's trying to beat Grant Horvat. I find that personally offensive. Because last year, Bryson was on top of the world, and now you turn on him. I think that sometimes reporters maybe need to take a step back. This is not my safest pick. Chris Gotterup's playing better golf. Xander has been more consistent in majors. Bryson is my pick because his ceiling remains enormous. The public has abandoned him, and we've already seen signs that his game can work at the U.S. Open. His game can work at the Open. If he survives Thursday without shooting himself in the foot and getting out of the tournament immediately, I believe he can become extremely dangerous over the final 3 rounds. If he makes the first cut, he wins the championship. I'm going to claim that right now. Bryson DeChambeau is my official pick to win the 2026 Open Championship. So let's recap this entire breakdown. Number 5, Keegan Bradley, the veteran value selection. Number 4 is Jason Day because of his short game experience and strong Open Championship history. Number 3, Xander Schauffele, the safest major championship player on the list. Number 2 is Chris Gotterup, the hottest golfer on the 5 potential best all-around selections. And number 1 is Bryson DeChambeau, my high-risk pick to finally turn his major season around and win the Claret Jug. My safest play is probably Xander or Gotterup. My favorite top 10 selection is Chris Gotterup for sure. My deep value selection is going to be Keegan Bradley, but my official winner is going to be Bryson DeChambeau. Now let me know your pick in the comments. Are you going with Scheffler or Rory? Do you believe Tommy Fleetwood can finally win a major near his hometown? Or are you joining me on these top 5 players? Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and come back after the tournament so we can either celebrate these picks or pretend this video never existed. Enjoy the Open. I'll see you in the next one.